Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. So this talk, this TED Talk, is going to be about how do you know what you have is a business or is it a side hustle? Okay. Um, I know a lot of times we have these ideas, right? And we want to we're excited and we spend the money to get the idea off the ground. Um, and we get it registered. We do all the things that they tell us to do that you're supposed to do for business, right? The ABCs of business. But slowly but surely we realize, right? Or we get to a point where we're like, is this really a viable business or is this more like a side hustle, right? We come to that crux, that fork in the road after realizing that, um, you know, the business isn't business singing, right? Like it's not producing the results that it should with the effort that we're putting into the business. So at what point do we need to kind of like sunset the business? And the reason that I am having this discussion with you, because I've come to that point, right? I didn't even say my name. My name is Kara. I am one of the co-founders of White Collar. Sorry for the impoliteness, right? But um, so I have come to the point. I had a business before I had White Collar, right? I'm one of the co-founders of this business. I founded it with my husband. And just so you guys know, White Collar is a online skills building platform where you can receive one-on-one mentorship at your convenience. And so um, I had a business before White Collar. I still have the business. I started this business in 2019. It was a children's book publishing company that also eventually I added coaching to it, author coaching. I started self-publishing my books, and then I started branching into coaching. And I would say during the pandemic, the business was booming. Everybody, there was, especially after George Floyd, everybody was all about buying books from Black authors and things that matter. And people had the money to spend, right? Nobody was going out during COVID. People were enjoying, there was a rise of pop-ups. People were enjoying doing the pop-ups and buying from people because they had more disposable income. And so I would say between 2019 and 2021, business was going pretty well. Um, and then 2022, I started to notice a dip. Even when I did pop-ups, I realized it wasn't really like bringing the same results it used to. It didn't, it wasn't like people, I guess, kind of got tired of pop-ups because it became oversaturated. And so I decided to take a step back from that and go into coaching. So I pivoted. I went to author coaching. That went well for some time. I had some clients. I was doing discovery calls. I was being requested to do discovery calls. And then that eventually started to take a dip. I started to see less requests for meetings. And then even when I had discovery calls, people weren't moving forward. Could it have been me? Yes. Or could it have been people realizing how much work and money went into publishing that they decided that this wasn't for them? Who knows? But I started to realize that, and I started to realize this last year. I was like, I don't know if this is a real business anymore. If this is a viable business that I should be pouring my time and my energy and my money into, because I was bootstrapping that business as well. And it became more of a bill than a business. And so my husband said to me yesterday, he was like, because we were talking about taxes and starting to do that and getting together the information for those. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I made $0 probably with that business last year because I wasn't doing all the things that I used to do because I was focused on this business. And so I already told him, I said, I'm sunsetting this business. This business is being sunset. This publishing company is being sunset simply because it's not yielding the results. And it had, even when I was putting the effort, it wasn't yielding the results. People aren't buying children's books. They're not buying books really anymore. Books, especially from indie authors, because we have to charge more for our books to be able to get a return. And it's just, it's a harder climb. It's a long game that I'm not really able to play right now. And so I said, I'm not going to re-register this business. I'm going to sunset it and focus on the business of white collar, right? Because it's just not getting any traction. It's stagnant. I've done everything. I've tried wholesale. I've tried, you know, doing all the things. I've done all the things that everybody tells you to do, and um, it's still not growing, right? It's still not scaling. It's not even maintaining, right? And so I think that, with all businesses need to be audited and assessed, right? For growth. Now you also have to assess, are you putting in the effort you need to put into the business, right? Because I had kind of checked out of this business maybe about a year or two ago. I was still trying to hold on for dear life, but realizing sometimes you have to just let it go until a point in which you there the time has come for the business to be resurfaced, right? Maybe, things are really hard right now. The economy is really, really bad. People don't have the disposable income they used to. Shoot, now you got to worry about gas going up when that was kind of stable for some time because of this fool we have in office. But, um, the lack of disposable income really makes people assess what they need versus what they want. And most of the people right now are going for needs first, right? And so it just becomes a tighter, more competitive market for the things that you're trying to sell, especially a product-based business. And so if you're in the product-based business sector, God help you. It's hard out here. It is very, very hard, especially, most people from my community tend to like certain things, and books doesn't always seem to be one of them. And so maybe there will come a time for this business to, and I would say that is a generalization. I'm talking just in terms of, and my books are not just for people from my community, from everybody, but um, I just realized that people were buying books in general less, right? And if they do buy books, they want to buy cheap books, or they want to get books from the library. They don't want to spend the kind of money that indie book usually will cost. And so I had to come to terms with, as much as I love this business, as much as this business is my first child, my baby, the business that where, it was my first starter business, right? That it's time to move on right now. Time to sunset, time to take a break. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to bring the business back when I see a need again for books like mine. But at this point in time, I'm just going to operate under instead of my company name, under my name, and just make this a side hustle, right? Because that's what it has become. But it is important that we all audit and assess what is our business. Is it really a business that where you got to do all the things and register it and pay the registration fees? Because those add up, right? I mean, before you know it, that comes around, very quickly when you got to pony up $250. But if you haven't even made $250 that year, right? Is it worth it, or are you just like constantly hustling all the time to sell, um and you're not making any passive income from the business, right? You don't have a customer base, you're not making passive income, you're just constantly hustling, 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 trading time for money. um that's more like a side hustle. That's not a business. A business should operate without you constantly having to be front and center. If you don't make money unless you show up, then that's a side hustle. That's not a business. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with having a side hustle. I don't want people to feel like that's like an attack or a diminish me diminishing their passion. Side hustles are necessary. We need side hustles, especially in this economy where you can have a job today and it could be gone tomorrow. There is nothing with creating a side hustle for yourself. Well, there's nothing wrong with doing that. But really understanding, like, you know, when a business is become a side hustle and when a side hustle is becoming a business, because there are some side hustles out there where people really need to make them a business because they're getting hit with so many, they're making such good money that they're getting hit with so many um getting taxed so heavily because they want to continue to operate as a side hustle and not, register as a business. And so it's actually to their deficit to continue and operate that way. It's much more better just to go ahead and register their business. But, you know, that's, when the revenue is revenuing and the income is well doing not just good but consistent. Okay, if you're year after year in the black, then this may be a business and you may have to look at, what's going what is going to be necessary to take the business to the next level. But a lot of us have businesses that are making $0. That's not a business, that's a hobby, right? That might be a side hustle. Maybe we don't need to register it again next year, right? Maybe we need to regroup and go back to the drawing table and figure something out about how we can work on creating a business out of this side hustle. But right now, let's keep it a side hustle. Let's keep it our side piece, and invest our time maybe into other things that could be more fruitful. But yeah, I think every business owner really needs to have an honest conversation with themselves about what do they have sitting in front of them. Is it a business or is it a side hustle? Maybe getting a mentor to help you ascertain that, right? Go through the finances and the expenses and all the things and talk to them and they can give you that kind of real point of view, right? Maybe you need someone else's POV to tell you, you're too attached. That's your baby. You don't want to let it go, even though it's draining you of time, energy, and money. A side hustle is just money you make that with very little to no business expenses, right? It's actually adding to your income. It's not draining you of or depleting you of your resources. Now businesses tend to sometimes do that, but you see the bigger picture, you see the light at the end of the tunnel, and so you're willing to continue to move forward because you've done all the things to make sure that you have a business, right? You've gotten the mentorship and the coaching and the funding and all the things, or you're bootstrapping it and you have the means to do so, to take it to the next level, because you've received the information to know that what you have is a business. You've had received independent assessments that tell you that this is a business. But, when you have your business so close to your chest and you don't have any other opinions outside of your own, you're really taking a risk. Some people use their savings and everything that they have for a business that really was only a side hustle to begin with, or only a side hustle to end with, right? Um, and so it is important, right? Because sometimes we get so close to what we got going on in our vision and our passion that we can't see the way ahead clearly. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, let me sunset this because this isn't really, going anywhere. And it's not that it's not going anywhere because I'm not doing things correctly. It's not going anywhere because maybe this is just not the time for this business right now. Maybe it just needs to take a little break for a time in which, this particular business would better be, would better be timed for, or whether it be better timing for it. When I see that the trend for this type of product or service is starting to boom, right? Um, but there's nothing wrong. Yes, I said three nothings with saying, I'm just not going to do this right now. I'm gonna come back to this later. We're gonna circle back to this business later. But I'm just not going to do this right now. Or I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it differently. I'm just going to do it as a way to make some money on the side, but I'm not going to pour in all the things I used to pour into it, like marketing, spending money on marketing and doing, the things that you would do for a business. I'm not doing it for this anymore because it's not giving me the kind of returns I need. And I have given it enough time to do so, right? I've invested enough time to do so. For me in particular, I have invested time from 2019. It's been 6 years. We should be at a different point with this business by now, and it's extremely hard to juggle two businesses. I'm not going to even lie. It is. It's like, have children, and you just like you have to pour into your children, you have to pour into each business, so you're divvying up your time. And when you have a business baby like White Collar is, it's hard to do that, right? It's hard to take on a toddler and a business baby, because the baby needs most of the attention, right? And so I know White Collar and what White Collar can do. It can disrupt the entire coaching and mentorship industry. And so, because I believe in White Collar so much, and because I'm seeing growth, right? I'm willing to sacrifice my toddler. Unfortunately, I call it. I'm not really sacrifice. Let me call it something else. I don't want y'all thinking nothing crazy, but I'm willing to sacrifice or sunset my first business, right? Um, right now in order to do so, because I could always return to that, or I could still do that and write if I so choose, just not under a business, right? Just write under my name, if I wanted to moving forward, right? So that's where we're at. Sometimes you have to have a little dose of honesty and be willing to let things go. My mentor from the told me, um my old mentor told me, that you should never be married to a business, right? Never be married to a business idea. That's what she specifically told me. Never be married to business idea, you know. And I think you should never be married to a business because running a business isn't easy. And you could wear yourself thin. You could start having mental health issues, medical issues, all the issues, chasing and throwing all your energy and time into a business that has is just is stuck in the mud, right? It's just not, I don't know, it's just not working, right? It's like a relationship. When you're in a relationship and it's just not working, no matter what you do, you've done everything. You've done the therapy, you've done you changed yourself, you did things differently, you did all the things to make the relationship work, and it's just not working. That's the same thing with the business. You've done all the things to make the business work and it's just not working. Sunset it. It's okay. Doesn't mean you're a failure, right? Failure does not mean that you are a terrible person or someone that's not smart, or everybody goes through it. Even the most successful business owners go through it. It's okay. You know, you'll live to see another day. So really ascertaining, have you created a side hustle or a real viable business for yourself? And knowing how to categorize your business early on will save you a lot of frustration, a lot of headache. Okay. So that's all I have for you guys today. This was going to be a short audio blog. um, I hope this was helpful. I want you to see that there is light on the other side, and there's nothing wrong with um, changing things up, pivoting. You know, you could still keep your business as a side hustle, or you can sunset it. It's whatever you want to do. The great thing is you own it. So, and there's only one you, no matter who else is doing what you do. And, you get to make the rules. Nobody is not like an employer where they make the rules for you. You get to make the rules on what you want to do. So that's the great thing about when you own something. So do it as you see fit. Do what's best for you. Who cares what anybody else thinks? I hope this was helpful. You guys take care. Have a great rest of your week. Bye bye.